I think one of the more interesting stories in college football this year has to be the rise of UCLA football. Just a year ago, Chip Kelly was on a make or break season, and in year 4, the Bruins finally put it all together. They had a breakout season led by quarterback Dorian Thompson Robinson, were one of the top teams in the Pac-12, and were expected to be a contender in 2022. The Bruins have had some great years in their past, but in the last decade, they have been all over the place. In today's video, we're going to talk about the rise of UCLA football, go through the Chip Kelly tenure, how this team has gotten so good, and how I think they're going to do in the future. But before we can get into it, be sure to subscribe to the channel as we're on the road to 100K. Leave a like if you want to support the channel, turn on notifications so you never miss my upload, and let me know what player, team, or topic I should do next. Now, let's talk about UCLA football. For a quick history lesson, the Bruins' all-time record is 614 and 444 and 37, and they have one claimed national title, which came in 1954. They've won 17 conference titles, and they've had one Heisman winner. At the turn of the century, Karl Dorrell would take over as their head coach, and he was very average. He led the Bruins to 5 straight bowl appearances, but they were only ranked one time, and they lost 4 out of those 5 bowl games. That's why after the 2007 season, Dorrell would be fired. In 2008, Rick Neuheisel was made the head man, and honestly, he did not do much better. The team did go 7-6 in 2009, and then they went 6-8 in 2011, where they would make the Kraft Fight Hunger Bowl. Because of that, Rick Neuheisel was fired, and they'd bring in a head coach that would change the direction of the program. His name was Jim Mora. You probably remember this guy having a lot of success, as he had some pretty big names while he was the head man there. Guys like Brett Hundley, Paul Perkins, Anthony Barr, Jordan Payton, and Miles Jack all played there, and there was a lot of success with these guys. In 2012, the Bruins would go 9-5, where they'd end up losing in the Holiday Bowl. They finished at the top of the Pac-12 South, and it was a terrific first year for Mora. In 2013, the team would go 10-3, and they'd finish ranked number 16 in the country. They beat Virginia Tech in the Sun Bowl, and this led into a huge 2014 season in which some thought they'd have national title hopes. To a degree, they were a little bit disappointing, as they went 10-3 once again, where they'd win the Alamo Bowl and finished number 10 in the country. The first 3 years for Mora were terrific. He had gone 29-11 and brought stability and winning to Brentwood. As they would head into a new direction at the quarterback spot, Mora brought in a tremendous recruiting class. They got 5-star quarterback Josh Rosen, 5-star defensive end Keyshawn Lucier South, and then 5-star running back Soso Jamabo. Add in their other recruits, and UCLA had the number 12 class in the country, and it looked like the sky was going to be the limit for him. Unfortunately, the 2015 season would not go according to plan, as the team would end up going 8-5 with a loss in the Foster Farms Bowl. 2016, Mora would have his first losing season, as the team would go 4-8 with a 2-7 record in the Pac-12. This was the first time they had a losing record in the conference, and now things were starting to fall apart for him. In 2017, Mora would need to get his act together, and at first, things looked good. They signed the number 1 recruit in the country in Jalen Phillips, and pulled off one of the most insane comebacks in college football history against Texas A&M in Week 1. Fortunately, it was all downhill from there though, as they would lose back-to-back games to Memphis and Stanford, and they would exit the polls for the remainder of the season. Their only wins came against Colorado, Oregon, Arizona State, and Cal, and they ended up going 6-6, where they would lose to Kansas State in the Cactus Bowl. This was a second straight losing season, and before that could even happen, he was let go of, as they would promote Jed Fish to become the head coach. Jim Mora was told to pack his bags, as UCLA expected better. In his 6 years, the team made 5 bowl games, won over 10 games twice, and had 2 superstar quarterbacks who went on to play in the NFL. UCLA football was decent at that time, but obviously they did not like the direction of the program, so they decided they were going to take a chance on another Pac-12 legend, Chip Kelly. He was hired in 2018, and he brought with him a new high school quarterback who was supposed to change it all for UCLA. His name was Dorian Thompson Robinson. He was the first major recruiting win for Coach Kelly, as Robinson hailed from Bishop Gorman High School and was a 4-star recruit, the number 2 dual threat quarterback, and the 36th best player nationally. Except he didn't fully believe in him. He decided to grab quarterback transfer Wilton Spate from Michigan, and those two had battled out all offseason. They had a breakout star at running back in Joshua Kelly, and Caleb Wilson was nationally recognized as one of the top tight ends in all of college football. They also had Darnay Holmes and Adarius Pickett, who were both expected to be the anchors of the defense. The Bruins were picked to finish 4th in the Pac-12. The Bruins were picked to finish 4th in the Pac-12 South, and the season did not go according to plan. In Week 1, they would lose at home to Cincinnati before getting blown out on the road against Oklahoma. They also dropped an out-of-conference game to Fresno State, lost to Colorado, and then lost by 1 possession to number 10 Washington. UCLA got off to an 0-5 start, and many people were not happy about this. Luckily, they get their first 2 wins of the season as they went on the road against Cal, and then won by 1 point against Arizona. 2-5 was better than 0-7, but they would lose their next 3 games to Utah, Oregon, and Arizona State. They get their last victory of the season against their rival USC before losing to Stanford in their final game. In year 1 under Kelly, the team went 3-9. Despite leading the team statistically, Wilton Speight was out of there pretty quickly, and DTR would take over for the remainder of the season. To be honest, Chip Kelly's 2019 class left a lot to be desired, as it was the 44th ranked class in the country. DTR was back at quarterback, both Kelly and Demetric Felton were there at running back, and they had 5 different receivers who all contributed. Expectations for UCLA were that they would probably make a bowl game this year. They lost on the road to Cincinnati in week 1, lost to San Diego State at home in week 2, and then got blown out by Oklahoma in week 3. The team had started out 0-3, but then they won 67-63 on the road against number 19 Washington State. This was an insane game and showed that UCLA could have a good offense. After that, though, they dropped games to Arizona and Oregon State before they went on a 3-game winning streak. They beat Stanford, number 24 Arizona State, and Colorado before finishing losing 3 straight games. The team now went 4-8 in year 2, and while I guess they did improve by a game, this was not the kind of improvement anybody wanted to see. Maybe Chip Kelly was overrated. In 2020, recruiting went up a little bit as they finished with the number 31 overall class and returned a good amount of starters. DTR, Demetric Felton, and tight end Greg Dulcich became the main guys, but unfortunately the season would not go according to plan. They lost to Colorado in week 1 before beating Cal in week 2. They then lost by 3 points to Oregon before beating Arizona and Arizona State. The team was now 3-2, and this was the first time under the Chip Kelly era that they had a winning record. Unfortunately, they'd mess up the rest of the season as they lose a close game to number 15 USC and then lost a double overtime to Stanford. Chip Kelly had now had 3 straight losing seasons, and if it weren't for everything going on in the world, he probably would have been fired. 2021 was going to have to be the year for them as they returned a 4th-year starter in DTR, grabbed Michigan transfer running back Zach Charbonnet, and returned a 3-headed monster of Chase Cota, Greg Dulcich, and Kyle Phillips. How would the Bruins end up doing? Well, they do great. They beat Hawaii in week 1, they beat Hawaii in week 0 before a week 1 win over number 16 LSU. This proved that the Bruins were legitimate, and they now jumped into the polls at number 13 in the country. Unfortunately, though, they would lose to Fresno State 40-37, and they're now 2-1. After that, they go back on the road and beat Stanford before a loss to Arizona State, which was quite shocking. After that, though, they'd start to go on a tear. They beat Arizona, they went on the road and beat both Arizona and Washington, and lost by only 3 to Oregon. They dropped a game to a really good Utah team before they finished the year strong with wins over Colorado, USC, and California. The team had gone 8-4, and they were competitive in 10 out of their 12 games. They were selected to play NC State in the Holiday Bowl, but that ended up being canceled. This was the breakout season that many were expecting from Chip Kelly, but now there were some decisions to make. Would Zach Charbonnet go to the NFL, and would DTR decide to graduate? Both of them would decide to come back, and for that same reason, there was going to be a lot of hype going into this year. DTR is now back for his 5th year starting. Zach Charbonnet is once again back to prove he was one of the best running backs in the country, and Duke transfer Jake Bobo was brought in to take over at that position. So how have they ended up doing this year? They beat Bowling Green in week 1 45-17, beat Alabama State in week 2 45-7, and then beat South Alabama 32-31 in week 3. There really weren't a whole lot of excuses why that game was close, but in the end they won and got to 3-0. Even after a win over Colorado, the AP poll did not see enough in the Bruins to rank them, as they started out 4-0 and would have to finally beat someone if they wanted to be ranked. They get their opportunity this past week as number 15 Washington would come to town. Led by first-year head coach Kalen DeBoer and transfer quarterback Michael Penix, Washington had looked like one of the breakout teams of the season and had one of the best offenses in the country. UCLA put a stop to that hype. They were up double digits in the 3rd quarter, but they ended up surrendering late and got a late stop to win 40-32. They'd upset the number 15 team, and now people are starting to say they were legitimate. Dorian Thompson Robinson put on a show in that game. They're ranked number 18 in the country, and they have one of the biggest games in years as they'll play number 11 Utah at home. One of the big question marks is will they actually be able to fill the stadium, as people have been complaining about their attendance for a long time now. DTR has obviously been great at quarterback, Charbonnet has continued where he left off last season at running back, and Duke transfer Jake Bobo has emerged as the leading receiver. This is the first time UCLA has started 5-0 since 2013, and they're also on an 8-game winning streak going back to last year. That's currently tied for the 2nd longest win streak in the nation. UCLA won a combined game in their first 3 years, but since then, the Bruins have won 13 of their past 17. Things have really transformed under Chip Kelly, and a lot of that can be put on their quarterback Dorian Thompson. While some will be annoyed that he's back for his 5th season starting, he definitely has experience and a lot of talent, and he now knows how to win games. Combining that with an overall good defense and enough skill players around him, it's setting UCLA football up for success, and with all the experience they have a chance at winning the Pac-12 this year. Right now, USC, Utah, and Oregon are the 3 teams to beat, but UCLA is putting themselves in the conversation, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. I always loved the Brett Hundley era there, so I've always found myself as a soft-spoken UCLA fan, so it's been cool to see Chip Kelly and this team succeed, and I'm definitely curious to see how they're going to do. They have this game against Utah before they have to go on the road to Oregon, and while I think they have a chance in both games, I think they'll end up dropping 1. They should win 4 of their last 5 games from there, as they have Stanford, Arizona State, Arizona, and Cal, and that game against USC could be one of the biggest in years. There's a really good chance that both of those teams have less than 2 losses going into that matchup, and UCLA has a real chance at a 10+ win season. It's been really cool to see, but I have not been able to watch all of it, and if you're a UCLA fan, tell me how this has happened. What do you think of this team? How good do you think they will do? And what's another school, team, player, coach, or situation I could cover in my next video? Be sure to let me know down below. Leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, and until next time, peace.